A killer who called the police himself after some of his attacks, who sent coded letters to newspapers, and who is still officially considered unidentified. This is the story of the Zodiac. In official versions of the investigation, he's most often linked to 4 attacks in Northern California in the late 1960s. 5 people killed, 2 survivors, dozens of letters, and not a single conviction. We're going to walk through this case like an investigation, in chronological order, step by step, from the first night on a dark road to the later letters and modern attempts to solve his ciphers and retest old DNA evidence. No gore, no myths, only what can be seen in the records of the police, the FBI, and major news outlets. Here's San Francisco and its suburbs in those years were a mix of hippies, protests against the Vietnam War, late-night bars, and rising crime. Newspapers loved dramatic stories. Television was just starting to enter every home. Police departments in different counties still worked the old way. Each had its own jurisdiction. Shared databases and instant information exchange were only beginning to appear. Against this backdrop, in late 1968, something happens that people don't yet call the Zodiac case. December 20th, 1968, Friday night. A 17-year-old high school senior and a 16-year-old girl from the same school are on a date. They drive out of town and park on the shoulder of Lake Herman Road, a rural road between Vallejo and Benicia, next to a fenced-off facility. Locals know this spot as a quiet lover's lane. At different times, other drivers see their car parked by the gate. Nothing unusual. 2 people sitting in the car, darkness around them, and an occasional pair of headlights. Sometime between 11 o'clock and 11:10 p.m., another car pulls up. According to the reconstruction of the case, the attacker parks alongside, gets out, walks up, and first fires at their car, at the body and probably the window, forcing the couple to get out. The boy tries to get out through the passenger door and takes a fatal shot to the head. The girl runs along the shoulder of the road. He chases her down and shoots her several times in the back. It all takes just a few minutes. A little later, a local woman is driving down the same road. In her headlights, she sees a car on the shoulder and 2 motionless shapes next to it. The scene looks so wrong that she doesn't stop. She turns around, races back into town, finds a patrol car, and literally flags the officers down in the street, telling them what she just saw. Police arrive at Lake Herman Road at around 11:30 p.m. The girl is already dead. The boy is still breathing, but dies soon after at the hospital. Crime scene techs find shell casings and bullets from a small caliber weapon, marks from shots on the car, and the bodies lying on the ground a few yards apart. There are no clear prints that would immediately point to a specific suspect. For the first few weeks, police work through the classic set of theories: someone they knew, jealousy, a random shooter, some local man hunting for victims at a lover's lane. Hundreds of people are questioned, guns are checked among hunters and residents, prior offenders are looked at. Nothing sticks. At that moment, no one connects this night with a case that will later inspire books and movies. 6 months pass. The night of July 4th to 5th, 1969. The area of Blue Rock Springs Park near Vallejo, another popular spot where young people hang out on weekend evenings. Late at night, a couple parks in the lot. They talk and listen to music. At some point, a car pulls up behind them, pauses for a short time, then drives off. A few minutes later, the same or a very similar car comes back and pulls in almost bumper to bumper. A man gets out. He walks up to the driver's side window as if he's just going to talk or show a badge. Instead, he pulls out a handgun and starts shooting into the car at almost point-blank range. After the first burst, he takes a few steps back toward his own car, grabs or adjusts something there, then returns and fires again at the already wounded couple. The woman later dies at the hospital. The man, despite severe injuries, survives and becomes one of the key witnesses. Almost immediately after the shooting, another car pulls up. 3 young people see the wounded man calling for help. They don't stay at the scene. They drive back into town and call the police from home. Around 12:10 a.m., the first call about a shooting near the park comes into the dispatcher, and a patrol car is sent to Blue Rock Springs. Officers find the car and the injured couple, call an ambulance, and the standard procedure for a case like this begins. About 30 minutes later, around 12:40 a.m., another call comes into the same Vallejo police dispatcher, this time from a payphone at a gas station. A calm male voice says he wants to report a double murder, gives clear directions. In such and such park, in a car of such and such color, those kids are lying there. They were shot with a 9mm pistol. At the end he adds, I also killed those 2 last year. An obvious reference to Lake Herman Road. Then he hangs up. Officers manage to locate the payphone. On the receiver they find fingerprints, but they're incomplete and later won't give a conclusive match to any one person. Ballistics show it's a different gun this time, but the pattern, an attack on a couple in a car, is way too similar. For the first time, there's a figure who deliberately connects the 2 episodes and takes responsibility for them. A few weeks later, 3 newspapers, 1 local and 2 major San Francisco papers, receive almost identical letters. The writer describes the attacks on Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs in detail, gives information that never appeared in the press, and claims that he was the one who did it. Each envelope includes 1/3 of a large cipher made up of 408 symbols. Together, these pieces form a single cryptogram. In the letters, he demands that the cipher be printed on the front pages and threatens to attack random people if they refuse. The newspapers publish the cryptograms, and police officially ask the unknown author to send more proof if he really is the killer. A few days later, another paper receives a new letter that starts with the phrase, "This is the Zodiac speaking." That's the first time this nickname appears, along with the crosshair style symbol. In the letter, the author goes over details of the attacks, clarifies certain points, and basically confirms that the 2 cases are connected. Meanwhile, a married couple who enjoys solving puzzles crack the 408 symbol cipher. There's no name in the text, but there's a lot of talk about how the killings supposedly give the author a feeling of power and prepare slaves for the afterlife. It's a reflection of his fantasies, not a formal confession with a real name and address. Once the cipher is solved, investigators and reporters, for the first time, see not just his threats, but the way he himself explains his motives, even if it's twisted and filtered through his own imagination. September 27, 1969. A warm day at Lake Berryessa, a popular recreation area in Napa County. A young couple is having a picnic on the grass on a small peninsula by the water. Around them are other people relaxing, fishing, boats out on the lake. At some point, the girl notices a man at a distance watching them. Then he disappears from view. After a while, he appears again, now in a black hood with eye holes and a large symbol on the front of his jacket that looks like a rifle sight. On his belt, there's a gun. In his hands, a length of rope, and as will become clear later, a knife. The man says he escaped from prison, killed a guard, and needs their car and money to get to Mexico. He forces the girl to tie up the boy, then tightens the knots and ties her as well. It all looks like a strange, but still just, armed robbery. Then he suddenly changes the script. He pulls out a knife and stabs them both. The attacker leaves. After some time, people in a boat come near that spot. The surviving man calls out for help, and they see the couple on the shore and call for rescuers. The man is treated in time. He survives and later gives a detailed description of the attacker, his voice, his clothes, and the story about escaping from prison. The girl is taken to the hospital but dies 2 days later. In the parking area, near the survivor's car, police find another signature, On the door, someone has written with a marker a circle with a cross through it and a list of dates: 12/20/68, 7/4/69, 9/27/69, with a note that the latest attack was carried out by knife. It's essentially an open statement. The same person wants to link all 3 episodes. Around 7:40 p.m., the Napa police dispatcher gets a call from a payphone. A man, speaking calmly, says he wants to report a murder, corrects himself to a double murder, gives the exact location by the lake, and adds that he's the same person who attacked the couples in December and July. As in Vallejo, the receiver is left hanging. Later, a partial palm print is found on it. Now investigators have a surviving victim who saw the attacker up close, a mask and symbol as part of his image, writing on the car door with dates and the same symbol, and a second phone call to police with a direct confession. October 11th, 1969, evening in San Francisco. A taxi picks up a passenger downtown. The passenger asks to be driven to the upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. At about 9:55 p.m., the car stops at the intersection of Washington and Cherry. Neighbors hear a sound like a gunshot, but not everyone pays attention. A few teenagers from the house across the street look out the window and see a man in dark clothing leaning over the driver, who is no longer moving, doing something with his clothes and head. Then the man gets out, walks around the car, wipes down some surfaces, takes something, and calmly walks off toward the Presidio Park. The teenagers call the police. Over the radio, the initial description mistakenly says officers should look for a black suspect. As a patrol car heads to the scene, the officers notice a white man of about middle age in glasses and dark clothes nearby. They stop, ask if he's seen anyone suspicious. The man points in a direction and the patrol moves on. Only later, when the mistake in the suspect description is noticed, do investigators start to treat this episode as a possible brief contact with the killer. At the crime scene, police find the cab. The driver is already dead. His wallet and keys are missing from his pockets, and a small piece of his shirt has been carefully cut out. On the outer door panel and the dividing panel inside, they find partial fingerprints. Later, those will be compared to prints from dozens of suspects. This episode is very different from the previous ones. It's not a couple on a country road, not a picnic by a lake, but a murdered cab driver in a residential neighborhood of a big city. At first, investigators aren't sure it's the same person, but within 2 days, there's almost no doubt left. On October 13, 1969, a major newspaper receives a letter. Inside is a text from someone who calls himself the Zodiac, and a small blood-stained piece of fabric cut from the murdered cab driver's shirt. For investigators, this is strong evidence. Only the killer and the police had access to that fragment. In the letter, he boasts about the murder, claims the police almost stopped him on the street, and threatens new attacks, including the idea of targeting a school bus. On November 8, 1969, the paper receives the dripping pen card with a new 340-character cipher. In the note, he calls it a little fun for the police and openly mocks the investigation. That cipher will only be reliably solved many years later, when an international team of researchers proposes a solution where the author again talks about how much he enjoys killing and taunts the attempts to catch him. The very next day, November 9th, another long letter arrives, this time with a sketch of a homemade bomb and threats to blow up a school bus. The Zodiac claims to have 7 victims, his own number, not backed by separate convictions in each case, and describes how he supposedly plans to plant the device by the roadside. Police and the FBI take it seriously, but no real bombs are ever found. On December 20th, 1969, well-known attorney Melvin Belli receives a Christmas letter. Inside the envelope is yet another piece of the cab driver's shirt and a message from someone calling himself the Zodiac. The tone is different. The author complains about inner torment, asks for help, almost as if he's looking for sympathy. Belly turns the letter over to the police and later appears on a television show where they hope the Zodiac will call in live. A man does call during the broadcast and says he is the killer, but it's later determined he is a mentally unstable person with no connection to the Zodiac crimes. The letter with the shirt fragment remains one of the key authentic pieces of correspondence in the case, and the TV call becomes an example of how copycats and false confessions start to appear around the story. In 1970, the Zodiac keeps writing. In April, a newspaper receives a letter that starts with the words, "My name is," and a short 13-character cipher. It's still considered unsolved. There are different theories, but no single accepted answer. In that same letter, he denies involvement in one of the major bombings, brags that he supposedly prefers attacking cops to regular citizens, and once again describes a plan for a school bus bomb. In terms of confirmed crimes, these claims stay on paper as threats. Investigators don't record any officially linked Zodiac attacks on police patrols. A little later, a greeting card arrives with a hint at a future blast, and a demand that people write about his bomb and wear badges with his symbol. That summer, he sends a letter with a map of the Mount Diablo area and another cipher describing how he supposedly plans to use a bomb in a specific location. Over the following months, more letters and cards come in, a rewritten piece of operetta with dark additions, a story about a list of future victims, and a mention of a woman with a child whom he claims he drove around for hours and then burned their car. The details resemble a real incident involving a woman who later said she managed to escape from a strange driver. That story had already been covered in the newspapers, so it's entirely possible the Zodiac just read about it and folded it into his own list for extra effect. Some investigators think it could have been him, but officially this episode is not tied to the Zodiac case. In the fall of 1970, a small card arrives at a newspaper with punched holes and words cut out from headlines, and later that October, journalist Paul Avery receives a Halloween card with a threat and a hint at a 14th victim. After that, Avery's colleagues walk around for a while wearing badges that say, "I am not Paul Avery." On March 13, 1971, another paper receives a letter in which the Zodiac claims he now has 17 victims. Again, that's his own number, not an official tally from criminal cases. He continues to mock the investigation. After that, there's almost a 3-year gap. On January 29, 1974, a short note arrives, known as the Exorcist Letter. The author praises the movie The Exorcist, quotes an operetta, and posts a new score. Me equals 37, SF Police Department equals 0. That too is his claim, not official statistics. This letter is considered one of the last with a high degree of confidence tied to the Zodiac. After that, he falls silent. By the mid-1970s, police and the FBI have a huge case file, 4 attack episodes, at least 2 phone calls with confessions, dozens of letters and postcards with the crosshair symbol, several ciphers, partial fingerprints and shoe prints, composite sketches of a man seen by teenagers and patrol officers after the cab driver's murder. The investigation is being run by several agencies, the police departments of Vallejo, Napa, and San Francisco, county sheriffs, and the FBI. One of the best-known investigators on the case is San Francisco Police Inspector Dave Toschi. His image later helps inspire characters in films about the Zodiac. Despite the massive amount of work, it's hard to fit everything into one clear picture. Different jurisdictions don't always share information perfectly, competing theories appear. journalists and private researchers get involved. Over the decades, dozens of people pass through the case as persons of interest. Some names stay in sealed police files, others leak into the press. The most famous of them is Arthur Lee Allen, a teacher and mechanic from California. He lived in the Vallejo area, not far from the first crime scenes. An acquaintance told police that even before the Zodiac letters appeared, Allen had fantasized about hunting couples by the water, calling himself the Zodiac and shooting people in the dark. On the day of the Lake Berryessa attack, he claimed he had been planning to go there but supposedly changed his mind. In one interview with detectives, Allen himself admitted that during that period he had bloody knives in his car, explaining it by saying he'd used them to kill chickens, which against the backdrop of a couple stabbed by a knife on the lake shore looked at the very least suspicious. Investigators noted that he wore a Zodiac brand watch with the same crosshair symbol used in the letters, and that his shoe size matched the approximate size of prints found at one of the crime scenes. Later, Allen was fired from his teaching job, and in the mid-1970s he served time for a sex offense involving a child. Some authors point out that Zodiac's letter writing dries up around that same period and try to connect those two lines, but there is no direct officially confirmed link in the record. With all of this in mind, some detectives and journalists spent years treating Allen as the most likely candidate. At the same time, the handwriting from the letters and the supposed Zodiac prints did not give a clear match to Allen. The composite sketches only partially resembled him, and he was never formally charged as the Zodiac. There were other figures who got books and articles written about them, but no one has ever been convicted for the attacks that are officially assigned to the Zodiac case. The case is still formally open. Police and the FBI periodically go back and re-examine the evidence using newer technology. In the 2000s and 2010s, researchers made several attempts to extract DNA from stamps and envelope flaps. In one instance, they obtained a partial DNA profile from saliva on a stamp and compared it to samples from some publicly known suspects, including Allen. No match. According to media reports, that weakened the case for those suspects, but experts themselves stress that the samples are small, old, and that some letters may have been sealed by people other than the writer, so those tests can't be treated as a final answer. Based on available information, none of the publicly named suspects has been definitively caught through a DNA match to the Zodiac. In 2020, an international team of codebreakers announced they had solved the 340-character cipher sent in 1969. The message in their reading did not contain a name, just more bragging lines. FBI representatives publicly said they considered the solution convincing, but it did not change the investigation itself. It shed light on an old text, not a new piece of evidence. In the 2020s, one private investigative group claimed they had identified the Zodiac and named a specific deceased man. But such teams don't have full access to all official evidence, and law enforcement has not confirmed their conclusions and continues to treat the case as unsolved. As of today, this is still one of the most famous unsolved cases in US history. The identity of the person behind the Zodiac attacks and letters has never been officially established. We can trace his path through dates, letters, and ciphers, but we still can't say the main thing, the name of the person who hid behind that crosshair symbol. The investigation has changed over time, new technologies appeared, old evidence and well-known suspects were checked again, but none of them has ever been legally recognized as the Zodiac in court. What do you think did the most to keep him from being caught? Mistakes made by different departments, the level of technology at the time, or the way he planned his attacks and his media image? And which detail of this story stands out the most to you? The phone calls, the ciphers, the hood and symbol at the lake, or the circle of suspects? Share in the comments what struck you the most about this case. Thanks for watching. If this story kept you hooked, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next cases.